we gather in the cosmos bright. Stars and ships take flight tonight, in the void where dreams do play. Soul citizens lead the way. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads in endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed. Squadrons call on the horizon. Battles fought, our hearts aren't frightened. In our ships we face the dawn. Soul citizens carry on. Oh, planets spin and light years fly. Boundless space where hopes reside. Brotherhood in every star. Soul citizens, here we are. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads in endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed.
Contacts, rear. Contact down. Contact front.
Nice work.
Hey, greetings. Welcome back to the Soul Citizens. I'm GriffinGamingRPG, and we are back. Today is February the 23rd, and we're getting near the very end of the month of February, and we are so happy to be here with you guys. Hope you guys are doing well, having a good weekend. I'm joined by my two counterparts, my two co-brothers, the one and the only fastcart and Serious Fun, two of the co-producers of Soul Citizens. How you guys doing?
I am happy to be here.
Yeah.
My toilet flooded my apartment, and so it's much better to be here talking to y'all than it is looking at that.
Ooh,
So.
ouchie. Oh God. Did your toilet flood, or was it one of your other people's toilets that flooded?
No, it was ours. It just decided, the pipe behind it just decided to do its own thing and flood our floor and flood the apartment below us. So it's lots of fun for us. It's our third night in the apartment, so it's really excited.
Oh, great.
You guys don't care about that. Everybody's going through something. But the most important thing is to leave that stuff behind and be here with you. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're here with us in spite of all of that. FC, how are you doing?
Yeah, I got stuff going on today, but my most pertinent thought today is that how come I'm fastcart today? I wanted to be sure it's fun again. What
I
happened?
know, yeah.
I got it right.
But I can't
We could've
have
switched
two.
it.
Yeah, I can't have two of you guys on, so I only can have
Can I have
one.
two?
No, it's
I
actually
think,
kind
I
of
think the
weird.
universe is. I think the universe is big enough for two serious fun.
Yeah.
No, be
That's my
thankful there's
yeah.
only one. Be
Yeah.
thankful there's only
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
It's
And
not
what would
big
we
enough
do
for two
without a
fast
fast
cards,
car?
that's for sure.
Yeah.
It is not big enough for two fast cards.
No. You know,
I'm doing well, thank you.
yeah, it's unique. This is going to be a unique show too, because as you guys, as I mentioned earlier, both Fastcart and Sirius are co-producers of our stream that we do, and as you guys know, we often do a monthly thing called the Producers. So this is kind of going to be, I guess, an extended version of what the Producers would be, where you guys get to hear from us and our thoughts. And we're continuing on part 2 of the subject we picked up on last week, was the journey to 1.0. One of the things that I wanted to, I didn't say this last week, or maybe I did, I can't even remember, but I remember when everyone was having discussions about us going into 4.0. When we were on Soul Voices, I made a comment that was basically what I said was that the journey after 4.0 is going to be a very rough one. And, you know, I think a lot of people thought I was referencing maybe 4.0 itself, because I did talk about the fact that 4.0 would be a leap in a lot of areas for CIG. And I'm not referring just to like things like Pyro, but the technical aspects of what they were trying to do, as far as the networking and all the other stuff that they've been trying to achieve over the last few years. But I also said that as we got ready to head toward what would be toward Squadron, that there would probably be some tough times, because there's a lot of refining and getting things together that they needed to do. Now, at that time, we had no idea that CIG was going to be moving in this direction of focusing on dealing with bugs and getting the game to be more stable and playable for players. So I kind of want to do a little bit of a retrospect before we pick up from where we went last week. Last week, we started on where we've been, how we got here, to the present. And this week, we're going to be kind of picking up from the present and moving into what CIG has talked about, both at CitizenCon this past year in the UK, as well as conversations that were held by Benoit, where they did a 3-hour session just a few weeks ago with Disco, and then just information we've been getting from CIG in general. So I kind of want to start off with a little bit of that first, and talk to you guys about some of the sentiment that I've heard people saying. I was watching a video, was it today? I want to say, yeah, I think I was watching a Salty Mike. I think I was watching him do the Answer the Call with Croncy. And there is, and this is not the only place I've heard it. I've heard this sentiment of the game not being the game that people thought it would be. And that's come from a lot of different areas. I've heard it from people who have content that they like let's say mining, right? Like mining is one of the more fleshed out careers in the game. There are people who've said it who are doing that. There are some people who are waiting on certain careers, right? That haven't been put in the game yet, you know, and they say, well, the game isn't getting where I want it to be. And then there are people who are somewhere in between. They have a different impact. How far do you feel things have deviated from, and I'm going to break this into 2 other stages. The first stage is going to be Chris Roberts' original pitch. The second part would be, like, let's say around the 2016, 2017 area, where things started to change and we started getting into things like OCS, SOCs, and all that stuff, right? And the Morrow Tour and things, period. And, like, do you feel that there's been consistency? Do you think that there's just been tweaks? Or do you feel like there have been, like, major changes? Montoya just put out a video, which is interesting to me. He put out a video talking about the CIG should maybe consider putting out PvE servers and see how that feels to the community, right? And we know that the old PvE thing was a long time ago about servers like that. Do you feel that that stuff is going to come, that the stuff that Chris talked about in the very beginning eventually will morph into that? Or do you think it's morphing into something different or a variation or a hybrid of it? Or do you think that the game is just taking an entirely different and new direction? And whoever wants to answer that, jump in.
Fast car, you go first because I've got a long answer.
Okay. As far as with the original pitch, and I think the honest answer, and it's kind of a cop out answer too, but we just don't know because we don't know what 1.0 is really going to look like when all is said and done. Because we hear what CID said, and
Well, let's not even go to
we expect
1.0. I said we're not even talking about 1.0. I'm talking about from there till now. Do you
from there to
feel
now.
that the game has changed? I mean, yeah, like you said, we don't know everything about 1.0, but I'm saying, do you think that the game has changed dramatically from his pitch? That it's tweaked? That it's different? I'll give you an example. Let me give an example.
Okay.
Let's use the scenario. If you remember in the original pitch, we were supposed to have just landing zones, right? That's all we were supposed to do is have landing zones. Like if you went to a planet, you couldn't go anywhere on the planet. You could just go to a landing zone, and that was it.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a change, right? But it did change so that it moved from that to now you can go everywhere, anywhere on a planet, right? Some
Right.
people will consider that good because it expands the game more, but there are other people who might feel that's bad because it also extended how long we have to wait on things because some dynamics changed in the game. So,
Well, I think
mhm.
I think it's important to do a little bit of history for people who may not be familiar. I know
Fire away.
most of us who watch this show or listen to this show probably know it, but you know this is what I always said. It's always the first time viewer
Right.
for every video. So like in 2012, they had this pitch. Oh, thank you for the subscription. Who was it? I can't see, but yeah, thank you. But from 2012, they had this pitch. Talk about Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. And, you know, they were expecting a limited amount of funds coming in from crowdfunding, but instead they got this a whole lot of money coming in from crowdfunding, and they changed their direction. And one time they took a poll for the community at the time, asking whether or not they wanted the original vision, or do you want the CID to expand on the vision because they have more money to put it
Okay,
into the
so
production.
let me stop you for a second. Let me stop you for a second because you said two things, and I want to make sure I have clarity on them. In 1 second, you said they changed their direction, and then the other one, you said they extended the vision, and those could be two different things. So I want to know what was changing direction to you.
Changing direction probably was not changing direction. In my mind, it's the same. Okay, put it this way: when the community voted to expand the vision, that's also changing direction in my mind, because it's a similar direction, yes, but you're making it more expansive, more in depth. That's a change in my
Okay.
mind.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure we're if you're
Okay.
referencing that way, then I want because you mentioned them as two separate things. You mentioned about changing direction. You said
Okay.
expanding vision. So I
Right.
just want to make sure we're together. Okay. So you're saying
All right.
when the vote came up from the community about because of the increased revenue, that CIG gave us the option to say, hey, there's more I can do. I've got more money. Are you willing to take that ride? Is that basically what it came
Right.
down to? Okay. All right.
Right. And that's when things changed. Because the original pitch, I mean, it was like I said, it was more limited, but now it's more expansive. So some people may feel that's a change of direction. Some people may feel that's expansive, more expansive, and some people may feel that's both. And some people may be okay with that. I'm one of the people who are okay with that. So yes, they have changed direction, but I think it's like, at the moment, it feels different from what they pitched, because I don't think we have the complete game yet. I mean, and I know you don't want to talk about 1.0 right now, but I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm looking forward to is still yet to come.
Okay. Okay. Serious?
So you captured a good portion of what I wanted to talk about, which is I think there are two themes across what's been up to now, right? And I've been engaged with this project since December of 2013. And I've seen two things. One is this idea of tech innovation and funding leading to nexuses of change, right? There have been clusters around change. No one asked that developer to lay out planetary tech. He did it on his own time, right? But that was a nexus of change, right? They did not expect to be possessed of that technical capacity, right? And that shifted. And Rich Tyra talked about this. He talked about the idea that originally, when we talked about 100 systems, there would be 90 points of interest.
Right.
Why? Because you were going to a landing zone. That was about it. Right. And now we have over 1,000 in Stanton alone because of that technological shift. Right. But the other thing that I think has happened from the beginning till now is there's been a tension. And there's a tension between whether we acquiesce the whole project, backers, developers, leadership, do we acquiesce to common gaming outcomes, or is the project reaching for something innovative, right? And so that tension between the acquiescence to common gaming outcomes and reaching for something innovative becomes more actualized as we get to an actual game, right? So along the way, we've been in this space where innovation was the direction they leaned into versus an actual outcome, right? And the language we used around that was alpha testing, alpha phase. This is where stuff's supposed to come and go, ebb and flow until you plug and play and get to where you want to be, right?
So
and it's part of the, I was going to say, go ahead.
I got to ask you something because I don't want to lose this on innovation. Do you think that part of the problem is there's been such a seeming emphasis on technological innovation, referring to, again, replication layers, OCS, SOCs, server meshing, static server meshing, dynamic server meshing, blah, 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 versus gameplay innovation? Because one of the things I think that has subconsciously or consciously fascinated us as backers was what we heard from people like a Tony Z, who seemed like they were taking gameplay to a different place. And because we don't feel that, what we feel mostly is technical in relation to bugs and reasons and excuses and successes and failures. But when it comes to gameplay, we don't see that same level of innovation taking place. Do you think that that is a factor? Because
yeah, I do. Because most of the time in life, we are not enamored with process. We're looking for result. Right. And almost everything I don't care about your process. I care about the result. Right. But because the process was illuminating something so innovative, Tony Z is a great example, right? We were imagining gameplay in relationship to NPCs and the economy, that the language that they were using and the ideas that they were generating for us had us thinking we were going to have an experience that really hadn't been seen in gaming before, right? And now we're getting to the place now where we approach the work that it sounds like we're going to get stuff. Oh, hi, Rocco, my dog. It sounds like we're going to get stuff that we've gotten before, that we've seen before, and so. That across the project, there has been that tension.
It's not like Rocco had a feeling about the game too.
Yeah.
He wait till I get on the show to start bargaining.
Yeah. I think that that's part of this for me. This isn't my issue. I think it is a struggle for backers in the game that, a lot of stuff that we see in cinematics, and let's keep it real. In the early days when we saw that very first Squadron 42 video, some people wondered, is this a cinematic? Is it real? Is it whatever? And that's fine. I get that. But as we started to learn more, we started hearing about not just what was a cool looking game, but we started to hear about why this game would be unique, why it would be different, what was. And I'm not talking about because they came up with somebody called the Xi'an and the Van Duel, but I'm saying that the way all these elements came together seemed to be about a game that was going to introduce something different. You know, I'm reading what Jade's saying about PvP, and you know, my question is, how is PvP different? You know, is it different, or is it? Are we going to have advances in innovation and technology? But if there's no innovation, or should we expect innovation in gameplay, or are we just saying we're going to innovate on a technological level, but all of the gameplay things that'll be introduced will be, you know, the standard fare? I didn't get that impression. I've gotten the impression that, like, for example, I was talking about mining. Fastcart did mining. I did mining in Eve. If I look at how mining is done in Star Citizen in relation to how it's done in Eve, or even Elite Dangerous, I feel it is much more advanced. Now, some people may disagree, but to me, it is much more advanced. It is they have taken it to another level. And the question is that something that we should be looking for them to do in all career areas of the game, not just fetch quests, you know, but what will make this stand out in innovation as they move toward 1.0? You know, or will it have to be after 1.0? Is it after the technological groundwork is laid? Then our gameplay can start to look beyond the typical gameplay. You know, I don't know what Mercenary is going to look like. I can try to base it around what games do now, you know, but is it just going to be a fetch mission? You know, is working in a hospital going to be, is there actually going to be something innovative that's different? Because Star Wars Galaxies had a great medical career, but it got to a point where people could just set up bots for it. It was kind of cool, but that was it. I'm curious about what are they going to do that makes things innovative and pushes
and that's
just like
hard.
pushing technology, right?
Yeah, and that's the hard portion of it. And I think what we're hoping for is that we're running up to a platform that does two things. It's a platform upon which to game, and for the developers, it's a platform upon which to build. Right? For those of us that were bought in from the very beginning on this idea of unique in most directions, 1.0 being the platform upon which to game is probably a little bit disappointing, right? Yeah. But if 1.0 is the platform upon which to build, right, and we see ongoing innovation and lean in, right? You know, Jade's talking about science and exploration. You know, right now, science and exploration is tucked under other stuff. You know, I want to see exploration that's fleshed out as mining. I want it to be its own thing, right? But that requires a lot more than where we are right now, and that means that we would want to see 1.0 as a platform upon which to build, not a platform just for gaming. Because if it's a platform for gaming, then they're just going to plug in like DLC, right? They're just going to plug in like more mission types in the framework that we get, and sort of that'll be it. And it'll be interesting. I'll show people Terra, right? I'll fly around, but that's different than, you know, when I hear about Star Wars Galaxies, I hear about this launch and this arc and this effort and then the falling short. When I hear about and think about Elite Dangerous, there was this launch and this arc and this effort, and then there was the falling short, right? And I worry that we were there for the launch, we've been here for the arc, we've been here for the effort, and as they bring it home, I don't want them to fall short. I want them to plateau and then go to the next level, right? I don't want them to just fall off, right?
And for me, like you talked about Pony G before, the quanta stuff, or the sub-something, or the star sim, as it's called now, we don't fully have that in the game yet. Now it's not really innovative because other games have done something similar, but I don't think to this extent, to this depth of what they've talked about, I don't think I've seen it in the game for me personally. So I think that's still innovation to come, and that's just one example. I don't want to say that the star-based stuff is innovative, but it certainly is impressive. So, to me, so that's how that feels. It feels impressive.
Yeah,
well, I mean that's a great point, Fastcart, because there's lots of stuff that remains impressive, even though it may not be as innovative as we were sold on or we would like. I don't want to cut you off, Griff, but I did want to emphasize that. I think that's an outstanding point. because until that mystical, magical, majestic day where somebody shows me a game that is more real and more realized than Star Citizen, this is still going to be the game I sit people down to go, look at this.
Yeah, right.
Right. It's still impressive. It remains impressive. Right. Even though some of the innovations that we were there for in the drawing room, right? Some of the innovations that we funded, to be frank, right, on the whiteboard, may have been more blue sky in the end analysis.
Yeah. I could be wrong. We're going to just get into our video for tonight. But I do want to say something. And you touched on this, Sirius. I think that, and I could be wrong, folks. So, this is just Griff talking. I think that there are times when we forget that everything that we're doing right now is foundational. And I think that gets lost in CIG's terms of, and we've talked about that use of playing the game. But I still see everything we do as being that we're testing aspects of the game that will later blow up. So one of the reasons why, for example, mining is fleshed out is the way it is, because that's the particular career that they chose to flesh out. Could they have done medicine? Yes. Could they have done bounty hunting? Yes. Could they have, but they chose to do mining. And mining is foundational to some other things in the sense of connecting things like trade and resources and all that. That's all basic. But later, my hope is that what they've learned from fleshing out mining to, let's say it's tier 7 or tier 6, that all the other areas will start to flesh out. You don't flesh them all out at the same time when you're building, because you've got to get a foundation going. And once a foundation is in place, you can start building on it. And I know there are some people who probably feel that there is a foundation. I'm not so sure. I'm looking at the difficulties and struggles that we're having right now. And let's talk about the present with 4.0 or 4.01 and 2. There are still issues with things such as elevators, missions of NPCs not showing up, all this other stuff, right? That they still have not, that are foundational to the world or the universe that CIG wants to create before we even start talking about careers and all this other stuff. So could we interject all these other careers and start bringing tier 0, tier 1 of that stuff? Yeah, but we'd be frustrated. I think the reality would be that we would be very frustrated that we could not operate within those tiers in the way that we really want to, because we still can't get a freaking elevator door to open up. So for me, I'm hoping that is the case. Now, I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong. But to me, if I observe how things have been laid out, there are certain parts of this game, they pick certain areas to work on, focus on, and that these other areas won't come until we get beyond that. And what the beyond that is, I don't know. Is it 1.0, or is it the fact that once the game becomes stable, will they start introducing things between 4.0 and 1.0 that does that as well? I don't know. We'll have to see. But in the meantime,
I was just going to say, when I think about Star Citizen nowadays, I recognize that what I think about is, what am I not worried about and what am I worried about?
Yeah.
Right? Griff, I'm not worried about getting new ships.
Yeah.
fastcart, new ships are coming.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not worried about that. I don't think I ever have to worry about that. I mean, fastcart might be worried about the BMM, but generally,
I'm not worried about when. I'm not worried about if. I'm worried about
I'm
when.
not worried about new ships, right?
Yeah.
I do worry about that other stuff you just talked about, right? I worry, and it's not like, listen, in the end analysis, Star Citizen is just what we have right now. It still brought me this community. It's still been an incredible gaming experience, right? I'll be disappointed, but I will have moments of clear happiness, right?
Yeah.
And so worry is relative, right? I'm worried about this floor with a toilet leaked in the apartment today. I'm not. So worry is relative, but I do worry about this idea of that tension between innovation and creativity and bringing something dragging and screaming across the line, right? And we have a whole continuum that represents a universe of backers that think about that a different way, right? We got backers who think it's time to bring it across the line, right? We got backers who always thought that, right? Who thought, as soon as I hear about Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, I want Squadron 42 and Star Citizen the way I saw it in the GDC with that Hornet with the propellers, right?
with the 400 series graphics and everything.
Right. I don't care. I wanted that, right? You got people who think like that, and you got other people who think, I don't care how long it takes. Give me the fullness of the vision as it's been discussed at every Citizen Con in these long panels. Go for that, right? And I recognize that CIG's got to exist somewhere in the middle, and that tension of choices, right, will empower some people and disappoint others, right? And you could almost say that if they disappoint everyone equally, they probably win, right? But I'm not sure that's even the case here. It's a difficult place to be.
Let me. I'm going to say one last thing, and Gomab raises a great point that I would love to. Gomab, if we can talk later, I'd love to go further with your statement there, because I do understand what you're saying about. It seems that CIG dodges the typical tropes of how things are done and basically reinvents the wheel. But my question is, what if the wheel is really different? You know, what if it's not the same wheel? I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe a wheel is a wheel no matter how you cut it. Don't get me wrong. I get that. There are some basic things that just seem to be the normal standard. But I don't know what the innovation is. I don't know what CIG is trying to do. I really don't.
I mean,
let me finish, fastcart. Let me finish. I don't know what they're trying to do in the sense of beyond. I know what they've talked about, but I would hope that the vision of Star Citizen is something that extends beyond the drop of a 1.0 and where they want to go 5 years, 10 years from now. And what does it take to prepare this game to be that? Because I'm going to be very honest about this. If they don't deliver something close to what people want, this game's going to go dead. It's going to go dead. And it's very easy to say, deliver it. You know, it's time to cross the line and do it. But I guarantee you, if they give you a finished product that doesn't reach a certain standard in certain areas, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to play it for a few weeks or months, and they're going to be gone. Because the vision for this has been so freaking high that if CIG doesn't get near it in a decent way, y'all know how gamers are. Flavor of the month. We'll move right on to the next thing. And you better believe there are going to be other people out there ready to put out other games to draw people away. Guarantee you that. So I'm just saying, what are the pros and cons for what we were asking for? You guys have heard me say this before. I understand the frustration. Believe me, this is how long is it for you, fastcart? 12?
2014, so this is my third.
Going to, it's a long time to wait. You know, it was a long time.
It's been so long now. I'm getting my math wrong. That's how long it's been.
You can't even remember. I don't even remember how long it was. I've forgotten how when it started. You know, I get it. But I just wonder about, sometimes that ambition and vision and idea could be so ambitious that it is like really so ambitious. And is it achievable? Well,
and Griff, you've talked about this before, and we the producers have done a video on this before, where it's important to understand Chris Roberts seeing himself as the George Lucas of gaming, right? And I think people underestimate the talent of George Lucas in the sense that not only did he execute and create whole new industries, right? Industrial Light and Magic, Skywalker Sound, out of his effort to create Star Wars, but he finished Star Wars, right? He had the idea for the prequels for a while. He waited until the technology got to a certain place. He executed those prequels, brought new technologies to the movies, but he also finished those movies. Right? So he had two talents. He was able to not only innovate, but he was able to complete and bring something home. Now, Chris Roberts did that with full motion video and superstars in gaming with the Wing Commander series.
Yeah.
Right. So you're right in saying, what is going to be the innovation that got across the line that is Star Citizen? We're seeing some of it in Squadron 42, but I'm not sure that that's enough.
And not to
Yeah,
be
but-
funny, but I will say this: George Lucas also wasn't happy when he put out Star
Mm.
Wars.
Yeah, I mean, innovators
I
and
mean,
creators
he
at
was-
this level may
I-
never be happy,
Episode
though.
4,
I'm,
yeah.
right?
I'm just saying,
Episode 4.
there was a point where he had to put it out, right? And he wasn't happy with it. Now the fans were happy, but he was not happy with it. And he later on went back and redid some stuff, and it pissed off the fans.
Yeah,
You know,
special
so
edition, yeah.
and I'm saying that because there's some stuff that Chris Roberts is doing now that maybe he's redoing this toward his vision, and it's pissing off the fans. You know, and
Can I
so
jump in real quick?
sure, feel free.
Because I had 3 points that I wanted to address. I'm sure it's fun you addressed Chris Roberts seeing himself as George Lucas. I don't think we should probably say that. I think it's more that more the fans, more the other people are comparing him to George Lucas, because I don't want to put that on Chris Roberts.
No, I don't think
Yeah,
that's what he's saying. I don't think that's what he's saying.
No. I know,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to best clarify that, just in case the other people take that.
No, the only person
but,
said that was me. Ain't nobody else said that. He's quoting me. I said that. I use it as an equation of saying someone who
Blame
changed.
Griff.
Yeah, right. I was using it in the context of someone who actually had a major impact on the gaming industry, like
Yeah.
Lucas had an impact on the film industry. That was my equation.
Right.
Mhm.
And the other thing about Griffin, you talk about reinventing the wheel. In my head, you can have like a regular wooden bespoke wheel that does something basic, but Star Citizen is going for the high performance wheel that goes on an exotic car. That would be the comparison that I would make in this case.
But Gomob's
Um,
response
and-
to that, but Gomob's response to that would be that you still start with the basics of putting even the most complex wheel together. There's still certain elements that you do. You don't just start from scratch to make a high performance wheel. There's some
Mm.
basic things that go along with whether it's high performance or whether it's a freaking wheel off of a wagon, that are the basics. And when I'm talking about that is I'm saying, what if the wheel is not the wheel that we're thinking of? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not a high performance wheel. I'm not talking about a game that just does things better. I'm talking about something that totally changes the way we do something. That's pretty ambitious. I'm not saying that that's the case, but I don't know. Let's give some shout outs real quick. Thracazogs, thank you so much for that gifted sub to Jave. Star Washer, Ratarid, thank you also for those 2 community gift subs you gave out earlier. We appreciate you as well. We need to start
Thank
our
you.
video. Go ahead and get your other point in because I need to start our video because we're
Yeah, this is real quick. Like a good example would be the high population that Star Citizen is going for. I think the highest we've seen is 800 on a PCU, maybe 1,000. I forget what the exact number is. But they're going for as many people, trying to get as many people on a server or in one place, not in one place. That's not accurate. But on a shard or what have you,
Mhm.
as they can. And that's not reinventing because other games have done that. But and I wouldn't even want to say it's innovative because the other games have done that too. But it is something you haven't seen that in a space game other than Eve. But that's not really count because it's not people as a person. It's more like ships.
Mhm.
And even when they do it in Eve, you have to have time dilation in order to get all that stuff to work.
Mhm.
But it's trying to do it without time dilation, without all the just you in real time, and it's proven to be a challenge for CIG. But I'm hoping that they'll get it soon.
Well,
Last thing I'll say real quick is flavor of the month gamers, they gonna do what they gonna do,
true.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I would not orient a single component of this project
Mhm.
to those types of gamers. I understand wanting to reach across the line and
Yeah.
have more of an abiding community than you find in an Eve but Eve been around for 25 years too. So
Yeah.
Um,
Well, 20 years
you know,
at least. Yeah.
yeah, so that's nothing to sneeze at. I would build to your vision, and you build a great mousetrap, people will, beat a path to your door or whatever. So
Yeah.
I would gamers are the get flavor of the month gamers are going to do what they're going to do. Content creators who do that stuff are going to do what they do.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying people come to Star Citizen based on what they've seen, and they have high expectations of what they want to see delivered. And all I'm saying is that if they don't get close to it, even if they're not flavor of the month, I'm just saying there will be things, if that you just touched on a little bit. You said being able to capture people, and I think that there are some people who I don't want to say that they're being flaky. I'm just saying they're looking for something different, and if CIG doesn't deliver something different, they will lose them. There are some of us that will be
That's true.
satisfied. They will be satisfied, even if it's not that different. They enjoy the game now. They're having fun with it now. There's no great gameplay innovations, but they can find ways to go in and have fun with it. But I'm just saying there are a lot of people who are looking forward to those promises. And if those promises, if they don't get close to some of those promises, enough to give people some light at the end of the tunnel that they're moving in that direction, I'm just saying there's going to be things out there that are going to be distracting. And
Yeah, I think you're right in that people are not going to be able to live on tech innovations.
yeah, yes,
They are going to
yes,
live on gameplay
yes,
innovations.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, we're going to jump in, gang. You know what? Well, we're right on the line. We're going to do a quick commercial, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into our video for today because this is something we got to watch from CitizenCon. So just bear with us for a moment. We're going to give us our 1 minute commercial break, and then we're going to be right back. So stick with us. If you are watching us,
And you're my favorite person.
yes, you are one of our
I love
favorite
you
people.
in particular.
Thank you guys, for being here with us. Hope you're enjoying our dialogue. This is, like I said, almost like a producer show today, but we're just having fun talking about the state of the game, and we're going to be talking about where CIG is going next in this next part of the show. So stick around for that. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you if you're on Patreon, YouTube. We appreciate you all. Togi says he knows that he's loved. Next week is going to be our 5th anniversary. And so we're going to be on next week talking about some of the same stuff, but you're going to hear from the other Soul Citizens in our team. So hopefully you guys will join us next week at 7 p.m. Eastern time as we get a chance to talk about that and celebrate our 5th year together as the Soul Citizens. And we got some announcements for you too next week. So make sure you come by and hang out with us, and we appreciate you. Okay. Okay.
Been 5 years.
Yes, 5 years. Yes. All right, we're gonna get this party started. That's not a good like East Coast Boston thing there. I have to talk to Admiral Kusanagi.
I don't know what that was.
It's potty started.
Potty. Yeah, there you go. That potty started.
Mhm.
Okay. We are going to be watching with you guys. And I know you guys have seen this before, but we're going to do it today because this is the biggest piece of roadmap that we have to moving toward 1.0. This is the final session that was from CitizenCon 2024 from last year in October in Manchester. And we're just going to kind of watch this, and hopefully, once you watch, as you guys know, when you watch these things, you see more stuff starts to resonate. So we're going to do that tonight. We'll have a little bit of conversation about it later. So get yourself something to drink, because you guys know this is about an hour, a little over an hour long for this video, and sit back and enjoy. And here we go.
Hey, well, I hope you had a great day yesterday. And by the way, there's a perfect run through that Rich did immediately after the show. He went back to the office, ran it through, no crashes, no nothing. It's up on YouTube. And by the way, that's a dedication of Rich. He's like, okay, I'm going to get it done properly, and he did it. And it looks great, and it doesn't have any screen tearing, because there was some screen tearing. There was a technical glitch in the setup yesterday. So anyway, watch that. And if you're doing comparisons to the old stuff, compare with that video, not from the stream. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this morning. There was the base building and the crafting, and the ships, you'll be able to do it. I mean, for me, the ability to sort of create your own place somewhere in the verse, find the perfect spot for you to make your home or harvest resources, it totally changes the dynamic of what the game will be in terms of exploration and people spreading out, and I think putting roots down in the verse. So I can't wait till we get that in there. I mean, that's one of the things that makes me incredibly excited, because I think it will just add so much to a living, breathing universe. But that is a perfect example of Star Citizen, how it's grown over the last 12 years, because we definitely did not have that on the initial Kickstarter or the pitches that we were doing. And, you know, Star Citizen is a living game. I mean, we're constantly always adding content and features and tech. As you can see, we're constantly upgrading, you know, what we're doing on the graphics side, making it better and always improving it. And even after we would consider it a released or a shipped game, not an alpha game, we will still be doing that. So it's just, it will be a living game. We'll never do Star Citizen 2.0. It will always be sort of Star Citizen that will continue to grow. It won't be like, oh, we're going to do Destiny 2 after Destiny 1. It will just be a living, growing product. Same for. Well, I don't mean that. I don't mean that as a knock at them. I just mean that in today's world, you constantly upgrade and improve things. But the big question really is, at what point would we at CIG, what point would I, what point would the rest of the team consider Star Citizen ready for everybody? Not just you guys out here who are beautiful, wonderful, early adopters, willing to put up with bugs, jankiness, you know, not a great new player experience. We know all those things are things that we want to fix and improve. And we want a game that everyone can just get into at the beginning, understand it, have fun, you know, pulls you into it, and then has a huge amount of depth. So the question is, what is that? And that is what we call Star Citizen 1.0. It's something that we've been talking and looking and designing and thinking a lot about over the past X number of years. And now we thought, you know what we should do, because I think half our sort of initial stuff is from a long time ago that you've seen, and then occasionally we'll talk about things we're doing in, you know, Inside Star Citizens or SE Lives. But we're like, okay, let's tell everyone the marker. This is what it is, Star Citizen 1.0. When we hit this, this is what we consider we're ready to go wide. You know, everybody in the world can get in, play it, whether you're hardcore or casual, have fun, play in the verse, interact, have a great time. And so that is what we're going to tell you today, is what we consider Star Citizen 1.0. That doesn't mean, as I said, that we'll stop at that point. We'll continue to grow and build and add things. So fishing is not on Star Citizen 1.0's list, but I'm pretty sure, I know, but I'm pretty sure it will be not that long after 1.0. But that is the example. We're going to tell you what the marker is. And, you know, to do that, Rich Tyra, who's our senior game director, is going to come out with a few of our other directors, and we'll lead you through what 1.0 will be. So without further ado, Rich Tyra. All right, Rich. Don't crash.
Yeah. Hello, CitizenCon. So my name is Rich Tyra, and I'm the Senior Game Director for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Now, I've been at Cloud Imperium for many years, and I've read many, many Spectrum and Reddit posts. And one consistent question I always see is, what type of game is Star Citizen? And I've read many, many answers. It's a PvE game. It's a PvP game. What about non-combat? Ultimately, it's all three. 3 types of players, 1 universe. So how do we connect those players to create a cohesive game, and not just a set of features bolted together? And it comes back to that elegant, simple question. What type of game is Star Citizen? Well, today, we're going to find out. Okay, so before we get stuck into Star Citizen 1.0, I think I need to clarify a few things. Firstly, what about 4.0? Where does that fit in? Well, 4.0 is the patch that contains server meshing and pyro. And fundamentally, it's an alpha development patch, which means it's adding further tech, features, and content to our alpha version of the game. Today, though, is beyond 4.0, all the way to 1.0. And the big difference is that 1.0 is the full release of the game. Okay, so what does that mean? How will it be different to a normal patch? Well, firstly, let's look at the 1. The 1 means we're committing to higher base performance and minimal bugs. No longer will we reference that the game is in development. This will be a fully released and polished experience. It means fully rounded gameplay loops, from new player experience to story missions and endgame content. And crucially, it means no more resets between patches. It's a true persistent universe. So if that's the one, what about the .0? Well, it's just as important. It means we're still committed to continued development, with new content and features being planned post 1.0. But those features will no longer be tier 0. We'll be committing to a higher benchmark of quality for each patch, and most importantly, it's a moment in time. If there is a content, feature, or star system that we've mentioned in the past that is not in 1.0, it just means it will come later. 1.0 is more than just a number change. It's the beginning of a new phase of development of the game. Okay, so we know what the 1 is and the .0, but before we move on, I want to address one important point. And for this, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. Here we are, the Kickstarter. As a backer myself, it brings back memories. And it also reminds me we had a lot of stretch goals. And one of those goals was 100 star systems. But, and there is a but, the star systems of old are not the star systems of today. They were based on the privateer and freelancer model. They were unexplorable planets with an isolated and small landing zone and had automated landings. And we all know how that went. To give you an idea, Stanton had 4 points of interest, and the entire 100 systems only had 90 POIs. Compare that to Stanton today, and we have 1,626 points of interest, and that is going to be dwarfed once we start using the Starchitect tool you saw yesterday. So where does that leave us for 1.0? Well, we will not be launching with 100 star systems, because the game we have today was not just the game that was pitched back then. It's more rich, it's more diverse, and fundamentally, you'll be getting a whole lot more, and I mean a lot more. Okay, so now I've defined what 1.0 is, let's get into the cool stuff. Star Citizen, by its very nature, is a sandbox MMO. Today, you as a player have to find the fun. You have to figure out what you can do and how to do it. If you want to be a hauler or salvager, you have to know those professions exist. You have to know what ships support that gameplay. And you have to rely on outside resources for help. As it is now, the game is not set up to help you. So we're going to add a soft framework, a nervous system, that connects all the professions, ships, and content together. And to do this, we're going to add a main story. To help new and existing players, to help discover all the exciting features and content we have, to take them on a journey of discovery of what the game has to offer. This story will become the spine of the universe and help onboard players with understanding how to play the game and understand what's available to them. This story will also introduce each of our guilds and what professions we have to offer. Like the United Resource Workers, our core industrial guild, which supports 2 of our main professions, mining and salvaging. They also support many other features and professions, like repair technician, crafter, and builder. Guilds are hugely important in Star Citizen, and as you know by now, guilds are comprised of many factions. As you work for each of these factions, you will gain guild reputation. You can then use this reputation as a currency to purchase guild-affiliated rewards, like ships, blueprints, and items. And each guild will have a unique inventory of what they offer. Alongside economic growth, guild reputation will become a core progression of the game. And to talk more about guilds and our main story, I'd like to introduce David Haddock onto the stage, our very own narrative director.
Thank you, Rich. Hello, CitizenCon. How's it going? Awesome. So yes, 1.0 is very exciting, and it's going to provide us probably our first real opportunity to finally inject a massive amount of narrative into the game. But we're looking to do that in several of ways. Now, Rich introduced the main story, so let's get into it. What exactly is that? First, it's a narrative experience. This will be a crafted story through the star systems and professions of the Star Citizen universe, taking players on an exciting adventure that will finally kick off the growing tension between Earth and Terra. Yeah. It will be NPC-driven. So while Squadron 42 will always be the place to go for AAA cinematic adventure, we're bringing a lot of the techniques that we learned from that to capture and build a cast of dynamic characters, some of which may be familiar, for both this story and the PU. And the main story is also designed to be sort of like a tour bus structure where you can hop on and hop off at any time you want to. So we're not also requiring you to do it. So if you want to log in day one and just go off and do your thing, you can do that. Or maybe you want to put the story on hold so you can go explore a new facet of gameplay that you just discovered. Go for it. The point is that you can complete it at your own pace. So that's the what. So why do you want to do this? What's the motivation to want to go on this ride? Like Rich said, for new players, it's a great way to ease into sort of the vast lore that we've been developing over 12 years, the gameplay, the locations that the game has to offer, and also give you a sense of upcoming stories that are about to come. But you've been playing Star Citizen for years. You probably know the lore better than me. So what's in it for you? Now, of course, we'll have rewards along the way as you complete missions and whatnot, but we're finally going to offer a big prize for completing the story. Citizenship. So, many of you already know this, but for the uninitiated, in the UEE, there are citizens and there are civilians. Citizens are members of the population who have demonstrated a commitment to bettering the empire, and as such are given benefits that civilians just don't have. Now, what those differences have been debated in the community over years. 1.0, we're finally going to answer that debate. I won't get into the full list of benefits that we're going to offer, but can reveal that one of them will be around land ownership. Citizens will be able to purchase land anywhere in the UEE and enjoy the security that comes with it. But civilians will have a couple of restrictions as to which systems and which planets they can buy on. So that's the why. So where is this adventure going to take you? Well, 1.0 is going to include 5 star systems. This story is going to weave you through all of them, but where exactly are you going to go? First, we've got Stanton, which needs very little introduction. I'm sure you're all very intimately familiar with these 4 corporate-run worlds. But since I do lore, I figure I could take the next hour and just walk through each one of these. But I'm kidding. We've also got Pyro, Land of the Lawless. A volatile star at the center of the system is the perfect metaphor for the constant struggle between the gangs and survivors trying to hack out an existence here. If you saw Ian's location presentation yesterday, then you know that he reintroduced Nick's system. There's another unclaimed system that's currently home to the People's Alliance, a wannabe independent government formed during the Messer era, but now struggling with the burdens of governance, a growing outlaw presence, and a new threat on their doorstep from Vandal raids. Ian also made another big announcement of our 4th system, Castra. Situated along the former Perry Line, this was a key strategic system to launch an attack if the Cold War between the humans and the Xi'an ever escalated. So that's 4. Do you guys want to know 5? Yeah. We're finally doing it. Considered by many to be the new jewel of the Empire, Terra has been a shining star against the more imperialistic tendencies of Earth, even in the darkest days of the Messer regime. Now, many believe that Terra should be the new center of the UEE. I don't know how you all feel about that. Yeah, a lot of division. But that's our starting 5. Each system and each planet will be featuring the massive level of outposts, POIs, stations, biomes, and exploration options that we've been perfecting with Stanton and Pyro, and you've been seeing in some of the other presentations this weekend. But we're adding one more level. We're also going to be adding location stories. Now, these will be short, NPC-driven missions sprinkled across our landing zones and cities that will exist outside of the main story, but will help provide an additional bit of lore and character to the location that they take place in. So, that's our main story. Let's talk more about the guilds that Rich mentioned. First, a quick recap. Guilds act as a governing body for clusters of professions and factions with a reputation and progression system that will offer rewards the more you work for them. And I want to call out 2 things. One, I'm not going to have time to dive into all of the missions that you're going to see on this board, but just know that every mission type is either in the 1.0 roadmap or already in production. And second, we're also looking to move missions away from the Moby Glass whenever possible. Sure, it will always be an easy way for us to get additional game content in, but we want you talking with people. So to aid that, we're going to be adding characters to represent the factions that you'll be working for that will help sell their personality. Now, some, they'll still interact with you via the written word, but some will call and check in on your performance. And others, you may have to meet in person from time to time. So, let's walk through them. Here we have the first guild that Rich showed, the United Resource Workers. Whether you're eager to earn credits, mining valuable resources from remote corners of the universe, sifting through detritus to try and salvage some valuable components, or even just acting as a technician, you'll find plenty to do with employers like Shubin Interstellar, United Wayfarers Club, and more. Next, you have one of the oldest unions in the UEE, the Interstellar Transport Guild. This will be the go-to place for everybody looking to make their fortune hauling and trading. Some of the factions that many of you already work for now, such as Ling Family Hauling, Redwind, and FTL. And we're going to be adding something special for the daredevils out there, the Imperial Sports Federation. So aside from the usual racetracks that are both legitimate and illegitimate, we're actually going to be leveraging some of our existing mechanics to build new sports and provide an outlet for all you Murray Cup enthusiasts, Cargo Olympians, and competitors to see just who's the best out there. For those who dream of exploring, I'm sure we have a couple here. We have the Academy of Sciences that was brought up yesterday in the social presentation, if you saw that. This is a science guild that will include factions like the Imperial Cartography Center, who will task you with a variety of missions to better understand our universe, such as sending you into a nebula to do deep scans, or finally seeing what's at the bottom of that planetary canyon. We're going to have a new faction called High Point Wilderness Specialists, who will offer missions associated with the various fauna that we're starting to get into the game, from population control missions to harvesting specific resources for research. Now, I don't know if we have some people who'd like to do combat, but our combat guilds were doing something a little different. Now, previous to this, these are all of our profession guilds. But for our combat guilds, they operate a little differently. See, these two are diametrically opposed to each other. So once you pledge allegiance to one, the other marks you as an enemy. On the lawful side, we have the Mercenary Guild. They represent factions like Eckhart Security, the Bounty Hunters Guild, and even some military contractors. So whether you're pulling together a team of specialists to go assault a ground base, hunting down an elusive criminal, or putting together a recon run to drum up some intel, Mercenary Guild's got you covered. On the flip side, we have the Council. Now, this is a shadowy group comprised of representatives from various gangs, syndicates, and outlaws who mandate criminal activity throughout the verse. You'll be able to throw in with rough and tumble gangs like the Headhunters and the Dead Saints, or work your way up to join highline criminal syndicates like the Atonis or the Drop Kings. But remember, the underworld is a dangerous place run by greed and power. So Mercenary Guild reps might not be the only people you have to worry about, as the syndicates are always looking for loyal soldiers who will hurt their competition and tip the scales of power in their favor. So as you can see, there's going to be a universe of exciting storytelling opportunities for you to undertake in 1.0. But one more thing, we're also going to revitalize our social behaviors to make the populations not only feel more alive and reactive and off chairs, but better reflect the tone and flavor of the areas that they're inhabiting. We want to see the people of Loreville slowly trudging through the streets, overburdened by the ruthless contracts, just as much as we want to see the tourists of Orison gleefully moving from attraction to attraction. And all of this is what's going to make Star Citizen be the experience we set out to make. A diverse universe with a rich tapestry of stories, characters, and experiences for you to live in. To talk more about how all this feeds back into player progression, I'm going to turn it back over to Rich Tyrer.
Thanks, Dave. Smashed it. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so we have a main story to connect the universe. We have all the guilds and their associated professions, and we have location stories to give the world depth and life. Crucially, though, we have a new core progression in the game, guild reputation. But what about our other core progression in the game? The economy. So, as we've discussed before, we'll be implementing a Star Sim-powered dynamic economy that will automatically adjust the in-game prices based on player activity.
One guy.
But for credits to actually matter, though, we need to have an economy where credits flow out as well as in. This means transactions such as repairing, refueling, and restocking need to have value. If everything is too cheap and the money coming into the economy is too great, we'll have massive inflation. And this is where taxes and insurance come in. Boo! We'll have two main taxes: inheritance tax as part of Death of a Spaceman, and security tax for your base that will cover the cost of planetary shield tech. Insurance, on the other hand, will be split between medical insurance, which covers your hospital imprints, and probably the most important one of all, ship insurance. Now, as we have Death of a Spaceman, we also need Death of a Spaceship. Losing your ship should be significant. Right now, for example, over 90% of all claims in the verse are for ships that have not been destroyed. And this is where ship insurance and our new warranty mechanic comes in. First up, we'll have 3 tiers of insurance, with level 1 being chassis insurance, level 2, chassis and component insurance, and level 3, chassis, component, and decorations insurance. Now, insurance by itself will only pay out credits based on the wear and age of your ship. Insurance, I think you want to listen to this bit because it's important. Insurance with a warranty, though, will give you back a new ship, plus any other equipment or decorations based on the tier of insurance you had. Okay, so this is the bit you need to listen to. All ships bought on the pledge store will come with a permanent warranty and their appropriate insurance. This means you will always get your ships back if they're attributed to your account. Other ships, on the other hand, will require a transferable warranty, and these are rare. You'll be able to earn transferable warranties in-game, such as by completing the main story, as an example, and apply them to any of the ships you own. But there will be a cooldown for transferring it between ships, so choose wisely. Now, what about claim timers? It's another fun topic. And getting your ship back without a claim. Well, we want claim timers to be proportional to the crafting timers. This means it's more beneficial for you to go back and get your original ship. For this, we're going to be introducing a shuttle ship, just like a courtesy car. You'll be able to claim the shuttle at no extra cost to most locations and then fly it back to your original ship. Once back in your ship, the shuttle will automatically return home. If your ship has been legitimately lost, though, then you'll need to claim it back. And as we'll be increasing claim timers, this will mean some ships will take longer than others, with starter or small ships always being readily available, and larger capital-sized ships taking a long time. So it's always better to try and get your ship back if possible. Okay, so we've talked about our two core progressions, but what does that mean to you as a player? Well, firstly, it means we have a framework where we can start creating cyclical gameplay loops. But what are they? Let me show you. Okay, so right now in live, if you have a prospector, you probably enjoy mining. And the reward for mining is credits and the enjoyment of the activity. But in 1.0, you might be mining for a whole different reason. And this is where cyclical gameplay loops come in. Firstly, let's add all the manufacturers and ships in. I'll just give you a moment to take that in, because there's a lot. I actually had to ask them to take the variants out, because it didn't fit on this slide. And let's zoom all the way into the prospector, a stalwart of the mining community. But let's say I really fancy acquiring a military Mark II Hornet. Let's go on a simplified journey of how I could get one. Firstly, I know I won't be able to buy it, as it's a military ship, so I'm going to need to craft it. That means I will need the fabrication hangar blueprint. Luckily, I can earn it by doing mining missions to gain rep with the United Resource Workers, and I already have the perfect ship, my trusty prospector. With blueprint in hand and some excess credits, I can now purchase a small plot of land on Stanton and build my fabrication hangar. Step 1, complete. Now I need to grab the Mark II Hornet blueprint. For this, I need mercenary rep, and more importantly, a combat ship. With that in mind, I will do a few more mining contracts to earn enough credits to purchase a Mustang from the dealership. Now I can start doing combat pilot missions for the Mercenary Guild, so I can unlock the Mark II Hornet blueprint. Okay, step 2 of our simplified loop is complete. I have the Mark II blueprint, but I need the resources to craft it. So I come full circle back to my prospector, but this time I'm mining for resources instead. As you can see, this closes the loop. No longer am I mining just because I like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But now I am mining for a purpose and for multiple reasons. For credits, for reputation, for resources, for blueprints, and ultimately as a stepping stone to crafting my own ships to enjoy other professions. And this is just one of many loops. This is the core of Star Citizen 1.0. player-set goals that weave between sandbox gameplay and the soft framework we are adding that give meaning and progression to our professions and features. It's providing the framework for motivation to play the game. That's the journey, though. What about the destination? So Dave has already discussed citizenship and the main story, so let's collapse that for now. Let's talk about endgame content. The content that is designed for experienced players and keeps them engaged. Basically, everyone in this room. So how does that look in 1.0? Firstly, we'll have open world content, including missions, group missions, and server-wide events, like we have today, but tailored to endgame players. While the sandbox element of Star Citizen will allow for large-scale battles, we also want to provide challenging instanced content that will take full advantage of not only multi-crew ships, but fleets of ships. And you kind of know how we do that, right? You saw that yesterday. And as you progress through the guilds, you'll be able to accept high-level contracts from government agencies who will offer prototype and military blueprints as rewards. These missions will require the full coordination of multiple players and an assorted fleet of capital, support, and fighter ships. You will finally be able to become the admiral of the fleet, directing your armada from your hologlobe, which, yes, is a feature included in 1.0. We will also be offering more specialized on-foot missions that see you enter the depths of distribution centers and municipal works in small, tight-knit squads that provide an outlet for our more FPS-focused players. On top of all this will sit a dynamic layer powered by StarSim. While StarSim will be the driving force in our dynamic economy, it will also track player and AI activity and dynamically spawn events based on their actions. For example, if it tracks large amounts of resources being moved from one home location to another, it will have a chance to spawn pirates to intercept. All this combined will provide just a portion of the endgame experience, and I'd love to delve deeper, but that's for another day, as we still have a lot to show. So we've discussed non-combat professions and guilds, cyclical gameplay loops, and endgame PvE content. But what about PvP? What about player versus player content? As you know, 1.0 will contain 5 star systems, 3 of these being lawful in Stanton, Castra, and Terra, and 2 of them being unlawful in Pyro and Nyx. So what's the difference? Let's take a look at Stanton. Lawful systems will be a mixture of high, medium, and low security areas. Each of these areas will be monitored by law enforcement agencies, and depending on the location, will dictate the emergency response time, with high-sec areas being the fastest. Initially, this response will be measured, but over time will escalate to overwhelming force. This means if someone is attacked, if they can just hold out for a short duration, help will be on the way. Pirates will be able to disrupt this monitoring by shutting down the nearby comm arrays, but this will be highlighted in your star map, with dynamic missions being generated to bring it back online. But this is the PvP you already know and experience right now, just without security forces. But before we jump into an unlawful system, let's explore what options you have if you pirate a ship. Okay, so first up, let's discuss ownership. All ships and high-value items that you own will automatically be assigned to you. This means if someone steals your ship, you can mark it as stolen, either via an insurance claim or in your Mobi. This will then trigger a dead man switch on the stolen ship, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. But what options does this leave as a pirate? Well, you can still salvage it. You can tow it back to your fabrication hangar to dismantle it for resources. Or if you have a high enough rep with the council, our criminal guild, you can get the dead man switch disabled and pay for a new title deed to become its new owner. Also, if you're in a lawful system, you'll need to find a transient jump tunnel, as all major locations and POIs will have custom security that will scan you on arrival. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's look at the unlawful system in Pyro. Unlawful systems have no laws at all, and with that comes opportunity. Pyro, as an example, has an abundance of high-quality resources and is a hotbed of criminal activity, the literal definition of high risk, high reward. With crafting now requiring resources, you're going to want to create bases to mine and extract them. This is where base raiding will become a new form of PvP, and it's founded on a combined arms ethos. Defending players will be able to add defenses such as walls, automated turrets, and most importantly, ground shields, a localized version of the planetary shields used in lawful systems that absorb the most powerful of weaponry. No longer can you just turn up and drop a Moab. One huge difference, though, compared to planetary shields, is that these shields can be disabled. You will have to strategically assess each base and punch your way through its defenses on foot to eventually bring down the shield generator. Once the shield is down, then you have options. You want to raise it to the ground, you can bomb it from the air. If you want to extract all the resources, though, you'll need to infiltrate the base using explosive charges and hacking while fighting off the defenders. Now, both piracy and base raiding is founded on sandbox gameplay. And again, that's the essence of Star Citizen. But we want to add more. Something where you can log on and immediately find the action and fight for a purpose. So first up, let's go on a history lesson. In the early 2600s, there was a fledgling corporation called SEAL that had developed a new system-wide planetary shield technology, the same technology that will provide protection for your bases today. To prove this tech, they wanted to use Nyx and Pyro systems as a testbed. With the promise of high-quality resources, SEAL lured independent miners to man the shield network in exchange for shield protection for their settlements. As a prototype, SEAL couldn't provide total coverage over all the mining settlements, and so they created the SEAL Tokens program, allowing the most industrious factions to purchase shield coverage for their work. The network consisted of multiple linked bases on the ground that then linked to several stations in orbit around each planet that then connected to the nearest relay in the shield network, which eventually linked back to the shield core, which oversaw system-wide distribution of the shield technology. Factions could then earn SEAL tokens for working on any part of the network. They could then use these tokens to buy shield coverage, but with the competition amongst factions being so intense, SEAL was only able to offer shielding to the hardest workers. Unfortunately, due to outlaw interference, SEAL eventually pulled out of Pyro and Nyx and pushed for a more automated solution in more civilized systems. So fast forward to present day, without SEAL's backing, they had to pull out and leave it as it is. And welcome to Station Warfare. With the SEAL network still in place, but lacking resources, orgs can take ownership of these structures to gain access to planetary shield tech, which, as you know, would make their bases invulnerable. Unfortunately, there's a catch. There isn't enough to go around. And as in the good old SEAL days, the system still works via the SEAL token program. To earn tokens, you'll have to assault a location and then deposit resources to power the network. This begins with ground bases and ends at the shield core. Each structure occupied will then accrue SEAL tokens over time, with larger structures earning more, and at the end of each week, you must then use these tokens to purchase shield protection. With shield coverage being limited, though, the system automatically selects the orgs with the highest bid from across all shards. Meaning for that week only, a certain number of orgs will gain access to shield protection. So this is a chance for your org to become the de facto leader of a system. It means you'll be able to log on and immediately find the action and fight for your org. And finally, it's not just sandbox PvP or ganking. You are fighting for a purpose. So once you've won your bid, what then? Well, to talk more about that, I'd like to welcome Ian Leyland, Star Citizen's creative director, to the stage. Good luck.
Thank you. All right, hello CitizenCon. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Dave. So to continue the conversation of large-scale endgame org activities, let's go back to Pyro 3, where the ground bases were being built earlier today. This morning, we saw the small habitat being built by Luke. And then we saw Deck start to expand the base into a commercial enterprise. But eventually, we saw a massive example of an org base. But with everything Rich was talking about, with org system-wide activities, we want to give you guys the ultimate end goal. But also the thing we need to protect. And to do that, let's look up into the sky and see what it is. Let me introduce you to player space stations. Finally, you can build your home amongst the stars. This will be the starting point for your base of operations for system-wide org activities. But why is this an end goal? Well, first of all, to construct your own space station, it's going to require vast quantities of resources and materials, and also will be a large time investment. But how do we start? Well, it all starts with the supply bay. and the supply bay can only be constructed by the pioneer. Once it's created, the supply bay then handles the creation of the station itself. Now, we're in grey box development phase, so the artwork's not final, but let's go on a journey and start building our space base. Awesome. Awesome. So as you saw, the cargo grid of the supply bay consumes resources, and the required resources will be substantial and will need to be topped up over time. So this means orgs will be encouraged to have efficient logistic networks to feed the supply bay. And as Rich outlined with professions, it's ideal if your org is well-rounded in terms of roles. Even the starter player can contribute. The supply bay has automated construction zones, which are used to create the station. And unlike ground bases, many drones are used at once to create the base. Once the station is built, the supply bay then integrates into the station itself. So here we are. We've built our core station module, and it's big. And out of the box, the station comes readily built with some core functionality. Let me talk you through it. Right on the top is the bridge, which is the command deck. This is where all further construction is going to be managed. From here, we can then monitor the status of the entire station. We have access to power and water management. Power and cooling is something you'll need to consider carefully. It also is an area to set permissions for who can enter particular areas, either divided by the ranks of the org itself or open to the public. And there'll be a radar station to track the activity outside the base. And the terminals to access logs of who has visited the station and see what they did. So let's jump back in game and take a stroll through our bridge. Super awesome. The back of the bridge leads to a centralized transit network. This spine physically connects the entire station and will provide access to the various decks. Each level in the station will have a centralized lobby area, and this is your station. You'll be able to use the decorator mode, so you'll have plenty of space to theme it however you want. And speaking of having plenty of space, this space station will have a one-to-one interior layout matching the exterior. No magic elevators. So you can circumnavigate around the entire perimeter, and it's wonderful. Okay, let's jump back in. All right. As you can see, right at the bottom of the central transit system leads to the lower areas. This is where you'll gain access to the engineering deck. So like bigger ships, this is where all the hands-on engineering and maintenance gameplay happens. This will serve as the beating heart of your station. Then we have the hangar deck. And as the name implies, this is where you'll gain access to your hangar network. The base station comes with a large hangar already built, along with 2 docking collars, and also empty slots for another 2 medium hangars when needed. There'll be a vast network of internal road systems, meaning you can quickly drive from one hangar to the other. No elevators needed. Okay, let's check back in. All right, so your station hangar will offer some enhanced logistics. For example, there'll be spaces for several freight elevators. And there'll be empty modules for open ship parking for vehicles and ground vehicles. And there'll be also exit points where you can simply drive out into your station. Then there'll be also an upper level for the observation deck. From the observation deck, you'll have a control room, and from here, you'll have master control over the freight elevators and the vehicle elevators. This means that even before someone has landed, their new cargo can be up into the hangar and ready to be loaded up. Now, Everything we've spoken about so far is what comes with your station. Let's talk about what you can do to expand it. As I mentioned before, the station comes with a predetermined interior network of corridors and roads. And in this network, you'll find an array of bulkhead connectors. Bulkhead connectors will come in tiers 1 to 3, which drives the size of room you're able to build. In the interior build mode, this is where you start to expand the interior of your station. The rooms will require resource and time to construct, and once built, you can rename each room, which will be reflected in the station's minimap. The interior of your station will have ample areas for you to expand. You can build generic empty rooms, and you can fill with items to your heart's content. You can also build specialist rooms, where the theme and functionality is already set for you, such as mess halls or infirmaries or generator rooms. And of course, there are shops. So similar to the small shops we built around the ground base, this is on a much bigger scale. But that's just the interior. Let's talk about the exterior. On the exterior, we have minor hardpoints. These are attachment points located on the upper and lower surfaces of the station. Using build mode, you can customize your station with a variety of modules which tailor it to specific functionality. Some modules cater towards resource collection, such as gas harvesters, while others are geared towards defense, like shields or turrets. This goes back to bridge operations of power management. A situation may arise where power priority is needed. Then we have major hardpoints. The core station module comes with 2 hardpoint connectors. Major hardpoints are used to connect substantial wing additions to your station. The first example Awesome, thank you, awesome. The first example is the cargo wing. The cargo wing will dramatically increase your inventory capacity. So this is ideal for orgs who are specializing in hauling. Then we have the refinery wing. So you'll be able to refine resources on a vast scale. As it's in space, it's much more convenient than traveling to a ground base. Now, a player could buy resources from your cargo wing and then refine it directly in the refinery wing. And finally, we have the hangar wing. So, all right. So, the bigger your fleet, the more hangars you'll want. There'll be a variety of hangar sizes as well as docking collars to help organize your fleet's deployment. All major hardpoint wings are connected via struts, and like the rest of the station, the struts are also internally traversable. Okay, so let's recap on the exterior expansion wings. Minor hardpoints give us options on how to collect resources or provide automated defenses for your base. Major hardpoints gives us options on how you can specialize your base. Let's jump back in game and see how our base is getting on. All right. Yes, Pedro has been working with us on this as well, so thank you. Looking cool. Customization is just as important as expansion. Similar to ground bases, you'll be able to earn tints for your station, and you'll be able to apply decals for your org logos. Outside of minor and major hardpoints, your station will come with 2 unique base expansion points. One on the top side behind the bridge, and one on the underside. The top side will be for the crow's nest. Now, all the other modules built so far have very specific functionality, but I'll admit, this is for the org members out there who want the ultimate in personal space. All right. So I'm going to be flying around the verse, and I want personal invitations to see what you've done in those rooms, okay? Super cool. I can't wait to see what you do with it. Now let's talk about the underside. This is going to be for the flight deck, which also comes with an additional 3 major hardpoints. The flight deck is perfect for your rapid reaction forces. It's ideal for fighters, but big enough to fit most ships. It's the perfect home for your station's defensive air wing. And just like the hangars, there'll be an observation deck which can override freight elevators, making rearming quicker and easier during operations. So an org with a tight flight deck crew can be substantially more efficient than others. Now, this one's my favorite. Let's take a look. All right. There's a few little Easter eggs in that video. But why do you need a flight deck for your rapid defenses force? Well, if you've built your super awesome station in a super lawless system, now you're the potential targets for others. Everyone will have their eyes on your resources and wonder what gear you've got in your inventories. And let's say we didn't win the station warfare bid that Rich mentioned. Let's take a look at the inevitable. Okay, so not only is your station a staging area for offensive campaigns, it's also a defensive fortress. The exterior of the station itself can take quite a beating. It's going to be very hard to damage. So the goal of attackers instead will be to punch a hole through the defenses and get inside. The optimal way to do this will be to infiltrate through the flight deck or EVA hatches and work your way up. Once inside, yes, once inside and you've cleared out a hangar, you may also want to consider airlifting in a tank or two to clear some corridors. Raiders will have to hack freight elevators or bulkheads in order to gain access. And of course, bring enough ships with them to start hauling out the loot. Gaining control of the bridge will allow access to storage, which would otherwise be unhackable. So, as a defender, there are a variety of automated defenses you're able to install internally within the station, such as blast doors, which seal shut, systems to be breached, and a range of turrets like anti-vehicle or anti-personnel. These will all help slow down the attack and give time for your reinforcements to show up. So let's do a final recap. This is one of the end game goals for dedicated orgs, and will be your base of operations for system-wide activities. The station can be customized both in the interior and the exterior, meaning you can tailor it to your own requirements. And it's your very own home amongst the stars. But wait. But wait. There's one more unique module we can build, and that is the dry dock. This unique slot will be at the back of the station. It has its very own dedicated observation room with crafting stations, and has a transit tram which runs along the inside of the arms, leading to the docking collars where your ship will be constructed. So, the only question still remains, what sizes of ship can we build? Let's take a look.
Thanks, Ian. So now we're talking. Multiple stations linking and dry docks to craft your very own capital ships. The ultimate end goal for any org. Okay, so let's take a step back. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned we had 3 types of players and 1 universe. And hopefully you can see we have purposeful gameplay catering to each type of player. But that wasn't the only goal. It was to build a game that connected all 3 together cohesively. And this is where you come in. The community, the lifeblood of Star Citizen. Whether you're a PvE player delving for unique crafting blueprints, a non-combat player mining for high-quality resources or building a base with your friends, or a PvP player fighting for your org in station warfare to protect your base. Each one of you supports each other. You need the blueprints to craft, you need the resources to make them, and you need the equipment and protection to be safe. This is what Star Citizen is. It's a universe that caters to all players. Now, I could probably go on for another 10 hours deep diving into each system. But I'd do Jared out of a job, and he needs future ISCs and SC Lives and CitizenCons. Today was to reaffirm what type of game we are making. And I hope you continue to come with us on this journey as we march towards Star Citizen 1.0.
Hey, fabuloso. Boy, where do we begin? A lot of information there. And, this is supposed to be the journey to 1.0. So I guess my question to you guys is, I know we're already over on our time, so I'll try to make this as concise as possible. Tyra started out saying that by the time we get to 1.0, they want things to be in place. We're no longer in a testing phase, but we're at a release point for a stable game that's being played. And these items are on that journey to get there. Do you feel that CIG is trying to say when we get to 1.0, this is what will be out? Or do you feel that some of this will be out and more will come afterward? Because it was supposed to be focused about, it wasn't 1.0 and beyond per se, but there was a lot there. Were the elements here that you thought might be beyond 1.0? Give me your thoughts.
I'll go first. I think the systems, Pyro, Casper, Terra, and Nyx, I think they're hoping that all those will be out by 1.0. That base building stuff, I'm not too sure about.
Let me go back from you're saying hoping. They made it clear they are supposed to be out at 1.0.
Right.
There was no hope. There was no hope involving that. So I want to make sure that we're clear about. Okay, so go ahead. Now the next part, I'm with you.
Another context, but not here.
Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. The systems will be out. That Starbase stuff though, we have to see. Because that's a lot. But I am impressed that they got all that in gray box already. So that's a point in their favor that it will be out by 1.0.
Okay. Serious?
Yeah, for me, this is nothing new for me. And I apologize for the fan in the background, but we're remediating this flood we had. Every time CIG presents something, there's things I'm enthusiastic and excited about and things that I'm like, whatever. And for me, I'm excited to be on this journey to 1.0 in large part because of the presentation by Dave Haddock. I can't wait for them to unleash Dave, Jerry Heidberg, and the narrative team to give us story NPCs, local story NPCs, citizenship pathway story NPCs, to start getting into the narrative and lore and take it out of Lore Maker's Guide and out of these weekly updates to the Galactopedia and put it on firm ground in the game, right? And they have the stuff, now they just got to build it out, and I'm excited to see that in the run up to 1.0. Somebody mentioned in the chat, and I agree, that the narrative that they're talking about now, the little narrative tests that they're having now in 4.0 ought to be the test bed for their ideas, right? So we ought to be getting more and more of that in the run up to 1.0, which I'm excited about and look forward to enjoy. But I'm built for this journey. This is the game of my life, so I'm here. I look forward to each and every piece. fastcart, when they show those space stations in gray box, to me, gray box is well down the road, right? So I feel like it's 50-50, whether we're going to see them the way we saw them, but I think we'll see them sooner than we might imagine. I do think that there is a bent towards combat-oriented stuff. And I think that we had a lot of momentum around base building that I think may have been truncated by the shift to bug fixing, right? But that doesn't mean they weren't well down a certain road on that. And I think this is a large part of it. So I think we're going to get everything that we saw here, and the journey towards it will be enjoyable. It won't come fast enough. It never does. But I'm excited about all of it.
So what do you guys think the impact will be? Went to my next subject, and it was the conversations that came from several things. Post-CitizenCon conversations, probably responses from the survey that was given out to the community. Then Benoit's Chris Roberts' letter to us, the letter from the chairman, and then Benoit's elaboration on that letter as well. And it leaned toward the fact that there would be a flip in how they do things. And so things like features and things like that will kind of take a little bit more of a secondary to performance, stability, playability, fleshing out bugs and things like that. In light of I'm going to go all the way back to the Kickstarter, and we've talked about how things have changed. Some things have changed or morphed since the Kickstarter. But the intention was that when Squadron 42 came out, people would play that game, and at some point after that, it didn't say immediately, but it implied that there was some urgency of people being able to step into the persistent universe. And with that in mind, and Squadron being scheduled for 2026, how are we looking at reaching 1.0? Is it reasonable to think that 1.0 would happen maybe within a year of that time, or in light of the new things, the community wanting things to be fixed and the process slowing down, that this content that we saw back in October may get extended out further now because of that decision, or because they were further along with things in the gray box, that they could still deliver some of these things within a reasonable amount of time post Squadron 42?
You can first.
I'll go first. Yeah, I think this is now we're into deep and abiding speculation. But to your point, Griff, the speculation begins with what are the stated facts, right? The stated facts are Squadron 42 is dropping, they say, in 2026. Could be December 31st, 2026, right? But I believe they're going to get Squadron 42 out in 2026, right?
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that they would want to have Squadron 42 out, any DLC that might extend the Squadron 42 experience, and have people experience all of that, and then be able to go from that into the PU, right?
So you
the
think it's
PU,
going to be main game, and then you're saying DLC, then PU?
yeah. I think that
You
they
and
will
Admiral,
have.
you and Admiral Kusanagi are on that page, huh? Okay.
Well, Admiral thinks that they have to put out three games, and I do think that there is a Squadron 42 trilogy of games, but I'm not talking about needing all 3 games. I'm talking about like the same way that has Cyberpunk and The Witcher have DLC that came with those games. Witcher 3 has a couple DLC attached to it.
Okay.
I think there'll be a couple DLC experiences, maybe an additional mission. I don't think it'll be as light a DLC as Starfield, but I think, and I don't know if it'll necessarily be as robust as what CD Projekt Red does, but I think you'll get Squadron 42, you get a couple DLC with that, and then people will be able to flow into the PU. So the PU and 1.0, I anticipate being around 2028, right? Beginning of 2028. And I think my theory of the case is that the bug fixing work that they're doing now will actually help development.
Okay.
Right.
Can I interrupt real quick? I
So,
got a quick question. You said a couple of DLCs on DLC. How far apart you think from Squadron 42 release to the first DLC you think it'll be?
8 to 12 months.
Okay, that's time. All right, go ahead.
That's
But
it.
this is just serious fun talking now. I don't know. I don't have any inside information. This is just me
Right.
talking. But I do agree with you, Griff, that they still want people to go from that single player experience into a universe,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And I think the DLC gives them time. That's what I think it does.
FC?
Yeah, I'm on a similar thought process as Suicide Squad, but my timeline is slightly different. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure CID would love if Squadron 42 was released in 2026 and they can go directly into 1.0 for Star Citizen. I don't see that happening. I think CID would love for that to be the case. But for me, I'm thinking maybe. Oh, I mean, okay. You mentioned that in context of the letter for the chairman and the changes that's currently going on. Before then, I would have said Squadron 42 coming out in 2026 and maybe start this in 1.0 2027. But now, yeah, 2028 it's getting better, like a better timeline. About how many DLCs they release in between now and then, I wouldn't be able to hazard a guess. But
So you think they'll release DLCs as well?
yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, Serious Fun
DLC,
episode is him talking. He said that's just him
I mean,
talking.
the episodes. I'm thinking about the episodes.
That's not.
as
That's not.
DLC.
No. I ain't talking about the episodes. That's not the same thing.
Different?
That's not the
Okay.
same thing.
I'm talking about the episode. Yeah.
So you're saying, so you're like Admiral. You think there's going to be the first chapter, then the second chapter, and then they'll put it out?
I'm thinking like the first chapter, maybe the second chapter. I don't think. Hopefully they'll put out Star Citizen before the third chapter, but or
Okay.
maybe during the third chapter. But we'll see.
Okay. Okay. That's
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. I think the second and third games are way, way down the line. I remember that early pledgers got something called Behind Enemy Lines.
Right.
And my take on it is that Behind Enemy Lines will be a small DLC attached to Squadron 42. And that any second or third single player games themselves are after 1.0, actually, in my view.
Okay. All right. Well, my prediction will be, if based upon the timeline that CIG has given, that 2026 will be the year for Squadron. My numbers will not change. I still say that the Persistent Universe will come out within a year of that time. No DLCs, straight to the Persistent Universe at that point. So we shall see. We've got 3 different opinions, and we'll see how things go. We're going to wrap up. We are over time, and we've been going over time, so we're going to tie this one up kind of quickly and talk about what we've got coming up next week. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. I know there's a lot of information that we went through, a refresher for a lot of us, and maybe some of you never saw this before, but hopefully you enjoyed it. FC, talk about next week for me.
Next week, we have Soul Talk at 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UTC. That's where we talk Star Citizen with members of the community. That's you. You get to come in Discord, and we really do want people to come in and chat with us. We have our usual crew. I'm not trying to denigrate them or say they shouldn't come. We love them. We love our usuals, but we need some new blood to come in. So come in and talk with us about Star Citizen this week in Star Citizen at 9 p.m. on Soul Talk on Thursday.
Absolutely. Sirius, would you talk about next week, our anniversary, please?
So, I only celebrate my anniversary with really special people. And you can see on the screen now a group of very special people, very good looking group as well. And this is the 5th anniversary of Soul Citizens, right? So number 5, right? And on 7 p.m. Eastern time, come and celebrate that anniversary with us. We would love to have you there to share in the festivities and the excitement. Lots of Soul Citizen Soul Team members will be there and try to be there. And we are super excited to be on Twitch and YouTube sharing the 5th anniversary of this community project, Soul Citizens, Sunday, next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully we will see you there.
Thank you. We don't have any questions this week. I guess that's good because everybody's been there, done that when it comes to this subject, I think.
I mean, they were chatting up a storm in chat. So,
yeah. But like I said, no questions. So, no problem there. Next week, as Series Fun just mentioned, we do have some special announcements. So you guys definitely want to be here next week. We also got some special giveaways that we're going to be doing next week as well, because it's our anniversary celebrating it. So we look forward to seeing you folks here with us, and hope you all will be able to join us. I would really, really appreciate it. And we always appreciate you all support whenever you guys are here with us. So I think that's about it. We're going to wrap things up, and we are going to set ourselves up for a raid here, and we are going to raid our good friend Kimmy65. He's on right now. Hasn't been on in a little bit, so if you guys get over there, give him some encouragement. Say, hey, Kimmy, where you been? Give him a little shout out there. Follow him. Once again, thank you to Serious Fun and fastcart for being here with us tonight, and thank you for everybody who participated in the show tonight and all the conversations. And as always, we'll see you guys hopefully next week. Take care of yourselves always. And I guess we'll do the three thing goodbye. We could do it tonight. Fastcart, why don't you kick us off?
Peace.
Love.
Oh, okay. And so we're out of order. I did my fault. We'll see you guys later. Take care of yourselves.
We have one job.
Peace.